Hi everybody, I'm Robert Donovan. Welcome to this episode of Not Trekonomics. As promised, a lot of these terms, as I promised in the last episode anyway, a lot of these terms in this show are used in different ways and in different places. Depending on where you look at them, they can mean different things. So this episode covers the terms used in this show and the principles behind them as I use them. So the first two terms that you're going to hear on this show that are really kind of not standardized that I use often are economic self-sufficiency and worker-capitalism. Economic self-sufficiency, as I use it, means you have a side business or side income that at least could cover your survival needs indefinitely if you lost your job. If you can cover the essentials without working at all, but need to work to cover the essentials, that is post-subsistence, or sometimes you'll hear that term referred to as semi-retired. If you can cover all the costs of your preferred lifestyle without working, you are at post-satiety. There's a little overlap between that and retirement in the United States because the cost of living in some places is so high. But your survival needs here, again, as the subsistence needs and the survival needs are the same thing as I use them. I define survival needs here a little bit arbitrarily, I admit, but we're going with food, clothes, shelter, and transportation. Feel free to adapt that to your situation if you decide to do this. For example, if you have an ongoing health expense or something like that, definitely include that under survival needs. Like my mom was a diabetic, we would definitely have to have included the cost of her insulin, that kind of thing. So that's economic self-sufficiency, post-subsistence, and post-satiety. A worker-capitalist is someone whose primary form of property ownership is an income-producing capital base. So think of it kind of as a continuum between government/employer dependency to economic self-sufficiency to post-subsistence to post-satiety as your capital assets grow and add degrees of freedom. To create capital, you need to manage income to produce savings, capital, and wealth. So let's talk about income. Income is money you receive for the product of some combination of your time, labor, and intellect. Now, most people trade their time for an hourly wage or start a business to get an income. Either way, the value of your time is determined by basically four and only four things. The first thing is the degree of specialized skills the job requires. More specialized skills equals you get paid more usually. Second is the unpleasantness or danger of the job that the job involves. More of that equals more money. Good example of that, of a job that doesn't require too many specialized skills but is pretty dangerous, would be something like the guys on the old show Deadliest Catch that did the crab fishing. Not a lot of super specialized skills there, but really dangerous work environment. So third thing would be demand for the product or service that the job produces. Higher demand equals more dollars. So the specialized skills, the degree of unpleasantness or danger, and the demand tend to add to the amount you can get paid the more of them you have. And the reason they do that is because they tend to limit number four, which is the number of people willing and able to do the job. So fewer people willing and able to do the job means you've got less competition, therefore you can usually command higher pay. So if you are making less money than you would like, come back to this list and you will always know what you're doing wrong. All right, so two things I would call to your attention though about this list. The first, you need the money, appears nowhere on it. Getting paid is about adding value for other people, and your needs do not add value. Serving the needs of others does that. Ask yourself how you can help somebody or make their life better. That's probably something you can get paid for if it meets the other four criteria that I just mentioned. The second thing is, it is the buyer, not you, who has the final say as to exactly how much value you are adding. And I'm sorry if that's a blow to your ego, but indulging your ego doesn't add value either. So elaboration on the finer points of applying these rules is going to be touched on all through these series in a myriad different ways. The basic takeaway, though, you want to get paid a lot, seek hard jobs. Comes down to that. All right, so once you add value by serving others' needs. But the reason you supply other people's needs, let us not forget, is to serve your own needs with the income you intend to make by serving the other people's needs. Now, once you have an income, your most basic spending choice is spend it all right now or spend it now and some later. The portion you spend right now is called consumption when you're doing it, or demand when other people are doing it. The portion you set aside to spend later is called savings, and the key to saving is maximizing your income, which is the harder one because it's the buyer of your skills, not you, that determines how much value you're adding. That's another blow to some people's ego, but again, doesn't add value to indulge your ego. And so you maximize your income, and to maximize your savings, you also have to minimize your expenses. That's the far easier one. So you always want to spend less than you have, and that's how you do it. You maximize your income, you minimize your expenses. The lower your expenses versus your income, the more you can save and the faster you can create and add capital. All right, so capital is, if you take savings, you've got a basic choice that you've put some money aside. Your choice now is, do I spend it all on consumption or do I spend some to buy things that make more money for myself? The latter decision, that is to buy things to make more money, that I'm going to use to make more money, that is called capital formation. So I'm going to set this money aside to buy some stocks or to buy a new computer, which I at the moment actually need. But for purpose of this discussion, a computer is basically just a form of capital. And so you haven't actually done it yet, but you have earmarked the money for that you're not going to just spend it on food, clothing, shelter, transpo, and your other survival needs. So the act of actually buying things to make more money is called investing. Right? So you take your capital, you spend it on things that are going to make you more money. That's called investing. So savings beget capital, capital begets investing, and successful investing begets greater income. So if you think of investing as spending to create new goods and services to put into the economy, and you can think of consumption as spending to take goods and services created by others out of the economy. Capital is often labeled, you'll hear this done a lot of times, based on what you spend it on. So some common examples would be human capital, which would be you're spending to acquire new skills or expertise to increase the economic value you have to offer and thereby command higher pay. So physical capital would be the computer, like I just mentioned, but that's basically spending to buy physical plant and equipment, raw materials, software, anything you use to create a product or service that you're going to sell to others for profit. The other name you'll hear physical capital called a lot is capital goods. Same thing. Social capital. Social capital has gotten really, really important and much more front and center in the age of the internet, but it is more than just what you do on Facebook or Twitter. Social capital consists of things like business relationships. Good customer service would be a form of social capital. Giving a regular customer a deal you don't give a non-regular customer is a kind of social capital. Obviously your social networks and your personal network. Anything you do to build audience, to build awareness of your brand, reputation for quality and accuracy, or brand loyalty kind of falls under social capital. And the last kind of capital I'm going to talk about that you'll hear about a lot is called financial capital. That's spending to start a business or to acquire other income-producing assets. So basically, if I put a lot of money into a mutual fund or a growth and income fund, then that would be financial capital because I'm buying an asset that is supposed to be making me more money, that I want to make more money with, right? Now, you can finance your capital using savings or debt. When you finance capital by spending your savings, it's called equity capital. And when you finance it using debt, it's called debt capital. And I realize I got a big bias here, but I personally avoid debt and recommend that you, if you are of the lower income branch of the economic tree, also do not use debt. The lower your income, the more debt hurts you. So that brings us to, if you do all of this right and are successful, it creates wealth. Wealth is capital assets and savings accumulated over time. That's pretty much it. So I also said in the last video I was going to talk about some of the basic obstacles, that you might run into to creating a post-satiety lifestyle and thereby a post-satiety society. Well, savings and capital formation, as I said, are the keys to creating a post-satiety society. That's the thing I maintain, and that's the whole thesis of this show. Unfortunately, here in the United States, we don't encourage capital formation much as we would like to think. Particularly, we don't do it among the working poor. Amassing wealth, I admit, is never easy, but there's a combination of graduated tax rates, bad schools in the United States particularly, that turn a difficult task into a nearly impossible one for low-income earners. And that's obstacle number one. We spend here in the California Soviet Socialist Republic about $11,000 per year per student from grades K through 12. For those poor individuals who have been crippled by Common Core, that means $130,000 over 13 years. And what are the majority of high school students considered qualified to do after all of that? Well, they can bus and wait tables, they could work a cash register, they could sweep mop floors, they could serve fast food, they could scrub toilets. We could simply give them $11,000 a year, let them enroll in Freedom Project Academy for $2,000 a year, or someplace like it, and put the remainder into a personal income or retirement account the child gets access to upon graduating high school. They'd have a great education at the end of that and a six-figure capital base to pay for things like Blake Bull's Unschool Adventures Camp and then college or starting a business. And they wouldn't be in head over heels in debt at the end of that if they did that either. They would also have learned the value of things like critical thinking, which isn't really taught in schools here, self-discipline, delayed gratification, and all the math needed to understand good spending habits, savings, finance, debt, and all of which are teachable skills, by the way. They're not things you're just gifted with by a high IQ. So those gifted or lucky enough to earn a higher income, they face the unnecessary escalating marginal tax rates of the U.S. tax system, and a tax system that, by the way, heavily favors debt over saving, further dunning their chances for achieving post-satiety before age 65, if they ever do it. A lot of people never do. The second big obstacle is escalating government debt, financed and monetized by fiat currency. And what that does, and we'll get into, I've got a whole video on that, folks, and it's coming. But what that does is when the government goes into debt, they're basically forcing present and future generations to contend with high taxes and inflation to pay the debt off, which both erode savings and capital formation. And by monetizing the debt and increasing the money supply, that causes inflation. $1 in 1792, when the U.S. Mint Act first created the U.S. dollar, is equivalent to $12.50 in today's money, as of a study done in 2015. So multiply your current annual income if you live in the U.S. by 12.5, and that's how much it would buy in 1792. That's the amount of dollars worth of goods it would buy. So, or in today's money, if it was as valuable as it was in 1792. So high taxes and inflation require higher income, precisely what the poor lack. And that's what they need to save and invest. They can't do it because the cost of living is so high that even a high income doesn't get you a very good standard of living, nor does it get you the money you need to save. We'll be delving into how to fix all of this, and when we go over our what you might call our pro-worker capitalist legislative agenda, which is coming in later episodes. But the big takeaway for this right now is most of what the government calls economic stimulus is specifically designed to encourage reckless, debt-based consumption rather than savings and investing among individuals and businesses, as well as merchants, banks, and the mass media glamorize all of this. They glamorize conspicuous consumption, and they virtually guarantee, put all that together, you virtually guarantee a low savings rate. The result, the poor and the middle class are easily trapped into enslaving themselves to their possessions, and if not to the banks, by virtue of the fact like student loans, which can't be discharged through bankruptcy, and they are simultaneously deprived in bad schools of the skills they need to earn the income to escape that cycle. Low-income earners who have no skills to trade for higher income become ready fodder for the deficit-financed welfare state, all but condemning many to poverty, substandard diet and health care, and the shorter lifespans that generally or tends to entail. Any attempt to create a post-satiety economy has to start with teaching the working poor the habits of delayed gratification, savings, and investing. And those are all teachable things. This is why education is capable of mitigating differences in IQ. So if you can get large segments of the working poor on the path to debt-free post-subsistence and later post-satiety, you create a population that becomes more and more self-reliant. Self-reliance builds a mindset of independence, and an independence mindset breeds freedom and a desire for smaller government. Right? You get people that want big government less and less the more economically self-sufficient they become. Organize those newly independent people to fight the entrenched cronyism and special interests and their bought and paid for politicians, and you've got the makings of a real revolution. The kind of revolution, the very thought of which wakes career politicians up screaming in the night. The crucial first step, because I intend to make them scream, the crucial first step is to get a bunch of people working to attain post-subsistence / post-satiety, and for that, we are going to need a plan. We'll start putting one together in the next video. Let's wake a few of them up screaming, folks. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. And as always, may the balance of your day be awesome, and I wouldn't think any less of you if you gave me a like or a subscribe.